Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, right there, get a hold of me, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Send me any questions, comments, ideas. If you have an idea for modeling something new, I'd love to hear from you. I'll go ahead and put it in a future lesson for sure. Today, I'm going to talk to you about redirects, specifically URL redirects. And those are important because whenever you redesign a site and you change your entire structure, you're going to need URL redirects. So I'm going to talk about how do we model that and how do we put that into a headless CMS. So that's what we're going to do today. But before we get started, you know how this works. Of course you do, because you watch me almost every week. And the way it works is I'm going to tell you real quick about headlesscreator.com. Go get your free account. Once you have your free account, you'll have access to this lesson on demand, right? Not just live, but on demand as well to watch as forever. But then you also have access to the entire Content Modeling Weekly course right there, which gives you access to, this is lesson 45 lessons. I think I'll end this year with 50 lessons, which is quite a bit. You'll have access to the lesson, plus you'll have access to the mirror boards that go along with all the lessons. And of course, you'll have access to pretty much everything else, including all the focus on Headless CMS courses and the Discover Headless Tech course and anything else in the future we may come up with. So, all right, that's pretty much it for the marketing. Just get your free account, go and sign up. For those of you that already have the account, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My goal this year was to finish the year with 1,000 registered users. Well, I'm at 1,250 registered users as of today, so I'm way over that goal. So thank you very much to all of you. But I could use a couple more users, so go get your free account. All right, that's it. No more marketing. What I'm going to do, you know how this works. I'm going to restart the intro here because the on-demand version has absolutely no marketing. So I will see you back in 10 seconds. Well, hello, and welcome to another lesson of the Content Modeling Weekly course. I am Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Send me an email with questions, comments, ideas for modeling anything new. I'll gladly take them to account and schedule them for future lessons. Today, I'm going to talk to you about redirects, and specifically URL redirects. Whenever you redesign a site, people focus on the look and feel of it, they focus on the content, and they forget that the old site URL structure most likely is going to change. And what happens to all those URLs that were bookmarked? And when they click on that, what happens to your SEO that was built? So you usually want to have some sort of URL redirects. The old legacy CMSs usually had some sort of URL redirects engine built in. The new headless CMSs obviously don't, because they're very, very flexible to create whatever content model we want. So that's what I'm going to do today. Is I'm going to create a content model that allow us to store redirects, and I'll show you two different ways of doing that. And then what we're going to do after we model it in Miro, we're going to jump into a headless CMS. In this case today, we're jumping into content stack, and we'll go ahead and put it in there, and then we'll run some GraphQL queries. So with that said, let's get started. All right, let's go into right here. We'll start with our Miro board here, and we'll start with content modeling. So I want to start with an example of, let's pretend we're a company and we have blog articles, we have how-to articles, and we have release note articles that we have. We just have three content types, right? I call them documentized because they're the documentized for the website, but they're related to a content type. So let's pretend we have these three, and I made them very basic on purpose. So we have a blog, a how-to, and a release note. They each have a title, a URL, and a body. Very simple, because the point of this isn't about these content types, it's about the redirects of them. So pretending that, let's go into, I'm going to jump in here to Content Stack. I'm going to go into the content models. I'm going to show you real quick. This is step one. I'm going to show you, I've created three content types. Here's the blog. It has a title field, or a title, a URL, and a body. It's a rich text field, pretty much. Pretty simple stuff. If we go back to all the content types, the how-to is the same way, and the release note is the same way. So really simple content types set up in here. I'm gonna jump into the entries, and you can see that I've created 2 entries for the blog, two entries for the how-tos, and 2 entries for the release notes, because I wanted to have a variety of entries so we can redirect one to another. So having said that, let's jump into, we're going to go into settings, and I'm going to go into GraphQL, and I just want to show you what does it look like from the GraphQL side, these entries. So I'm just going to pick blog right now because it really doesn't matter. But let's pick all blog articles. Here are the items. We're going to get the title. We're going to get the URL. I don't care about the body right now, just the title and URL. So you can see that I have 2 blog articles like I showed you. And you have right here the title and the URL. So each entry has a URL, right? So pretty simple stuff. If we do the same thing for how-tos, right? We can go to items. We'll go to title, URL, run it. And there you go. Now we have basically all our blog articles or our how-tos, they have URLs. So it's an important concept to understand because your URLs will be stored in an entry. So now the key is we want to redirect from one URL to another. So let's talk about that. So let's go into the content into Mira here, and let's talk a little bit about redirects. There are 2 ways that we can handle this. And I'm going to start with the global way, which is we can create a content type called redirects. That content type will just have a name for the entry, but it will have a type. Now, there are 2 types of redirects for SEO. It's a permanent redirect or a temporary. A permanent is like a 301, and that's usually when you archive an article or that page is no longer available, you redirect it permanently into another page. So that way Google and the SEO knows that, hey, this page or this article no longer exists, just always index the new one. Then there's a temporary 302 redirect, which is you could use it for A/B testing. You can say, just temporary redirect to this page because I'm running some tests, and then I'm going to bring it back to this other page. So there's that. So I set up a content type called redirect with a title name, or with a field called name for the entry, a type that the author can select if this is going to be a permanent or a temporary redirect. And then now in many headless CMSs, you can create groups of fields. In Content Stack, it's called groups. In other CMSs, it could be called sections or blogs. It doesn't matter. But basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a from and a to, right? Now, where are we redirecting from and where are we redirecting to? Well, we could be redirecting from an actual entry in the headless CMS, or we could be redirecting from a URL that is not in the headless CMS, right? But our front-end code could still be checking the headless CMS for that URL entry. And we can be redirecting to either an entry that exists in the headless CMS. We don't have to worry about the URL because remember that URL is in the content type already as an entry. Or we can be redirecting to another URL. So we can go from a blog article that is no longer available to my site, let's say, for example, as an entry. So let's look at that. Let's go in here. We'll go back to content models, click on here, redirects, because I already created it, and I'll show you what I did. I just have a field. It's just a title field that comes built in when you create a content type and content stack called, they call it title. I renamed it to name. But the field is actually still title, and you can't change it for the GraphQL. Then I created a group, and it's one of these here. Let's see, group there. It's one of these groups. That basically all it does, it just groups together. And why did I do that? Because if I go to groups, I'll show you. I put in, or I actually should have put in, but we'll put it in now. Please select only an entry or a URL, but not both. Okay, so that way, and I'm going to do the same thing for this group. I thought I did that already, but I guess I didn't. In this group, I have a to entry or in a to URL as well. So let's do that. We'll go ahead and do that here. We'll click on, oh, I think I hit the wrong one. Let me see. Let's just make sure. No, I got it right. Let's go here. Save. I think I hit, I want to make sure. Yep. Okay, good. All right. So now that I have, didn't save it. Save. Show saved. Let's see. Let's make sure there's nothing going on there. And this is a group. Save. All right. Let's see what happens now. Oh, it's not saving for some reason, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, you can store in there. I'm refreshing just to make sure there's nothing going on with it. But you can, let's see, we'll do it one more time just to make sure. Because I'm not sure what happened there, why it didn't save that. We'll click on save. And we'll do the same thing here just to make sure. And we'll click on save. And let's see. Yeah, for some reason now it's not saving it. It was saving it before. Anyway, there's a group, there's two groups, a from and a to, and each group has an entry or a URL. Okay, so that's the redirects. So now if we go to entries, I'm going to go to entries, I'm going to click on redirect, and I'm going to pretend that this, if we go to blog, I'm going to pretend that I have another article for you, blog article, or actually we'll do this one. My very first article will be archived. It's like no longer available, and it's going to redirect to this one. So how do we do that? Well, as an author, we would go in there and now create a new entry. We'll select redirects. We'll say, remember, permanent or temporary. We created this type field as a select, but it would be permanent or temporary. And I'm going to say, hey, this is permanent. So I'm going to say the name is going to be my first article is archived. Redirect to new article. That's the title of it, but the title is not shown anywhere. So I'm going to select now the from. Oh, that's funny. It is showing. Please select only an entry or URL. So it is showing there. So I don't know why it wasn't showing on the other side, but it did save it. Okay, so I'm going to select either an entry or a URL, right? I'm going to type in a URL. In this case, I'm selecting the article. Now, which article am I selecting? I said blog. I'm going to say my first article. Select right there, and then on the to, I'm going to choose, I'm going to say